We went to Universal Orlando for the first time. I will discuss with you our experience, share what we thought of the parks, what we liked, what we didn't like. First off, Universal was running a promo to get a 5-day ticket for the price of 3 days. And you could also choose between park to park or the basic park ticket. So we're only going to go for 2 days originally, but because of the promo, I decided to check it out. Also, I went through Undercover Tourist to buy the tickets, which gave us a little bit more of a discount. It also gave us $60 off with that when we booked our hotel. And so we got a really good deal for the 5-day promo. Now, is it necessary to go to Universal for 5 days? I will let you know a little bit later on. We'll discuss that. Originally, I thought 2 days was enough, but now that I've been, we can talk about what I thought of that. Our first 2 days at Universal were a little rough. We didn't get into the parks until much later in the day. The day before our first Universal day, we had to drive from Legoland, which is in Winter Haven. It's about an hour away from Orlando. And we also had to check out of that hotel, then check into our next hotel. Originally, we were going to just book at Universal after the Legoland hotel, but they did not have any rooms available for the first day at our Universal day. We went to Comfort Inn for the first day, and they do not run shuttles after 10:40 to go to the parks. So we had to find another way. We ended up getting a lift. So essentially, our first 2 Universal days, we're using that morning time to check in and out of hotels, and we didn't get to use the early morning entry for those first 2 days. So we ended up going about, I think it was 2 o'clock, our first Universal day, and then the second day we didn't get there till maybe 11, might have been 12. Now, my kids' ages range from 4 to 12. Kenan and Zachary are the older ones. They can ride just about everything. They're tall enough. And then Alexandra, she's 4 and she's 40 inches, which means she can ride a lot more rides than she would have been able to if she was under that 40 inches. So I think 40 inches is a really good height for your kid to be when you come to Universal. There's so many more rides that they can ride if they're 40 inches. Also, Ezra is 47 inches. And so he can ride just about everything except for the Forbidden Journey and the big roller coasters. So for our first ride, we decided to go to E.T. Adventure, which was perfect because that is the only original ride that opened with the park. It's the only one left that still exists when the park actually opened. And so it's a great classic ride. It was really fun. Our kids loved it so much that we rode it 3 times during our stay, and that's the only ride that we rode 3 times. So, even though it's older, they loved that ride. And it was so funny, our first time on the ride, when we were about to get off when the ride was done, Ezra was like, "We saved the planet!" And it was so cute. He understood exactly what the ride was about, and the people that were in the ride with us, they thought it was funny too. After E.T.'s Adventure, we went to the next closest ride, which was Woody Woodpecker's Nut House Coaster. And it's a kiddie coaster. It's pretty short, and you only have to be 36 inches to ride. So Alexandra could ride. She rode with me, and she did not like it.
What did you think of the ride? Woody Woodpeckers. Did you like it? Was it scary?
I thought that she wouldn't have any problems with it, but I guess there's a lot of rides she didn't like. So she didn't like that one. She didn't like the Pteranodon Flyers, which I was really excited to go on because you can only go if you have a child with you. And so many people don't get to ride that. And I was most excited to ride that one just because it's not a lot of people get to. And but it was fun. It was short, but so she didn't like that one as much. It didn't scare her quite as much as a roller coaster, but she still wasn't sure about the height. So after Woody Woodpeckers, we did go to the Curious George Water Park, which Ezra just loved. He wanted to stay there all day. We went there twice during our vacation. He kept asking to go back. He just loved it so much. It also isn't just water. There's also a ball factory right behind it. And if you go off to the right, there's some stairs that you can go up and avoid most of the water so you don't get splashed. But the ball factory was so fun. There's so many things that you can suck up and so many things you can do. Shoot the balls, you can suck them up, they fall down on you. There's also a little slide. So Alexandra, we found out, did not like a lot of the rides. We ended up going to Transformers our second day. That was our first ride of the second day. She did not like the screen simulated ride at all. She started screaming and said that she did not want to be on the ride anymore. And then after that, we went on Jimmy Fallon's Escape Through New York. And I thought that one might not be so bad because it's just in a car, but it's also simulated, and she didn't like that at all either. So after that, we decided we were not gonna have her go on any more of the screen simulated rides, and except we did try Minions, because that one I thought she would find cute, and they also have a stationary seat. So if your kid is under 40 inches, they can go on that ride. They just have to be on the seat that doesn't move around. And it's this big bench that's right in front. And there's plenty of space. She liked that one a little more, but she still wanted to close her eyes. But for her, she really loved the Zeus Landing area. That has 4 rides, and she could ride all of them, and none of them scared her. So that was more her speed. Ezra loved them too. He's 6. He didn't have any trouble with any of the rides. He seemed to enjoy all of them. He didn't scream or say he was scared on any of the rides, even Escape from Gringotts. But he definitely showed more of an interest in the Zeus Landing rides over some of the others. He loved Cat in the Hat. We went on that twice. I think that ride's cute. It does remind me a little bit of the Mini Adventures of Pooh at Disney World. If you are going to Universal with a small child, especially one that might be right at that 40 inches, you could get stopped by a team member asking to check their height. That happened a few times with Alexandra. She wanted, there was a few times when the team member asked to check her height because she is right at that range where she might be just a little too short to ride, but she did fit the 40-inch height requirement. And so if you have smaller kids, that might happen to you where they ask, which is fine. I mean, at least you know for sure that they're safe to ride. For our first day going to early park admission, we ended up going to Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. Zachary was so excited about that. He kept wanting to ride it, especially because I told him if he wanted to ride Velocicoaster or Rip Ride Rocket, he should go on Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure first to make sure that one wasn't too intense. Because before now, he hasn't been on any really big, huge roller coasters. So we went on Hagrid's. It was delayed. We got there right when the park opened, we were there for early park admission, and it got delayed. We were in line for like an hour waiting before they finally said, the ride is running and we're all ready to board. And everyone cheered because we had been waiting so long. Some people even got out of line because they just didn't want to wait any longer, which is understandable. And then I think it was another half an hour before we actually got up to the ride vehicles and got on the ride. They also have a child swap area where I went first with Alexandra and Ezra because they couldn't ride. But the other 2 kids, Zachary and Camden, got to ride twice since they went with their dad and then they went with me afterwards. And I don't really like intense roller coasters, so I was worried about if this one was going to be too intense for me, but it wasn't. There wasn't any huge like dips or anything that were too scary. The scariest part, I think, is when the ride vehicle goes all the way up. There's that hill that it goes up and stops and then comes down. But I was in the very last car, so I didn't go up very high. So after Hagrid's, we went on the Forbidden Journey. we went on the Forbidden Journey, and Zachary didn't like it, even though he loves roller coasters. He didn't have a problem with all the other roller coasters like Velocicoaster and Riptide Rocket. He actually loved those rides, but for some reason, the Dragon Breathing Fire he did not like. And he also didn't like Escape from Gringotts as much because of the second drop that happens in the ride. So you gotta kind of, it's interesting how some kids like some things, but find other things a little scary. Also, some people have problems with motion sickness on rides like the Simpsons ride and Jimmy Fallon's ride, I think is also another one that some people get sick on, and the Forbidden Journey. If you are someone who's prone to motion sickness, don't think that you are going to get motion sickness, because my children and I both suffer from motion sickness when we are in cars and even a little on planes. But these rides didn't bother us at all. Zachary was most excited to visit the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. He kept asking when we would make our way over there. We first visited Diagon Alley on the very first day. It was very crowded. It was hard to get around in a stroller, especially when you first enter going up to the dragon. That's where it gets really crowded. There is a street off to the right that's not so crowded. So we ate lunch at Leaky Cauldron. It was getting late, so it wasn't going to be too much we could do. I decided that we should all buy our wands, but first I wanted to do the Ollivander's experience. It was interesting because I thought there was a high chance that one of my kids could get chosen since there's 4 of them, and there was only one other group in there with us, but they didn't get chosen. We'll have to try again another time and see if one of them gets chosen. So the Wizarding World includes Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley, and overall I'd say I like Diagon Alley more. It's bigger, it's cooler, like especially on a really hot day. It's really nice to go in there, and it's so much cooler. It's shaded, whereas Hogsmeade is kind of just one straight line up to the Hogwarts castle, and so it's not as big. There's also way more wand spots in Diagon Alley. We tried to do some wand magic during early morning hours. However, there were a lot of people also wanting to do wand magic. I was expecting it to be less, but there were a lot of people at Hogsmeade where we first started doing the wands. Afternoon also was very busy, so morning and afternoon, it seemed like it wasn't quite as busy in the evening time to do some of the wand spots. But we were also there during the first week of June, so it was more crowded. I did notice that the most popular wand spot seemed to be the umbrella that rains. It's right by the bathrooms in Diagon Alley, so every time a child needed to go to the bathroom, we ended up staying there for a bit longer than expected because they'd want to get in line and try and make the umbrella rain. That spot always seemed to have a line. Also, Nocturne Alley has some spots you can't miss. You gotta make sure you go in there and try some of those wand spots. They're fun. There's one with a skeleton that you can move around and it makes the skeleton move. The kids really thought that was fun. Also, sometimes some of the wand spots don't work as well as others, but there were witches and wizards that were there helping anyone, like give them pointers of how to make sure that it would work and make the things move that were supposed to move. Also, the dragon that breathes fire, it goes every 10 minutes, so it's like right on the dot. If it's 12, it will breathe fire. If it's 12:10, it will breathe fire. And Alexandra did not like the fire. It would scare her. She'd jump a little bit when it would go off, but only if we were really close, like if we were by the bathrooms. That's where she really wanted to run away and not be near the fire. So if you have kids that don't like some of the loud noises, they might not like the dragon so much. But once we were farther away from it, it didn't bother her as much. So we went the first week of June. It was hot. However, there were a few rain showers which helped. It made it cloudy for parts of the day, and luckily it just rained off and on. It wasn't all day like our first day when we went to Legoland. That was an all day thing. But at Universal it was just off and on. It wasn't too bad. We put on our rain ponchos for a little bit, but didn't need them for too long. So in June, like we went the first week of June, it did seem busy to me. It seemed like the lines were longer for the rides, and it did feel like we had to wait longer to get on the rides than maybe if we had gone during some of the non-peak times. Something we really liked about Universal is our CocaCola Freestyle machine. They have CocaCola Freestyle refills, and this was really nice. Our first 2 days we didn't get it just because we got into the park a lot later, and it goes for 24 hours. You buy the cup and you can refill for 24 hours every like 5 or 10 minutes, I think it was. But so for the first 2 days we didn't buy it just because I didn't want to have it at half a day. But so we loved that Universal had this option, because being in the heat, we felt thirsty all the time. It was so hot. But having that CocaCola Freestyle machines, they're all over the park, and so you can refill all over the place except for the Wizarding World. And if we were thirsty, we just fill them up, and the kids really enjoyed picking the different flavors. There were a lot of different flavors to choose from. You don't just have a soda. You also have the option of like different flavors of Powerade. There's also fruit punch, lemonade. You can also get ices, so it doesn't have to be just from the Coca-Cola refill machine. And there's different flavors, so that's really nice. There's also water in the Freestyle machines, which you don't actually have to pay for. If you want just to fill up your water bottle, you can do that. That's what we did the first 2 days. We would use that to fill up our water bottles, but it would get warm, and so it wasn't as pleasant to drink. So having the Coca-Cola Freestyle machines was really a plus in my mind. It made it so that we were drinking more often and didn't feel thirsty all the time. Universal has something called the Photo Pass package, and we went with the 3-day Photo Pass package since we were there for 5 days. With the Photo Pass package, you get all the on-ride pictures, which when we did rider switch or child swap, it ended up where the first group that rode, that picture wasn't there when we went to the kiosk to look it up, and so we had to go to someone to find it. In certain locations, they don't have someone there that can look it up. They will tell you what location you can go to find it. Like when we came off of Men in Black, that one, they only had a little kiosk, and so you have to go to the E.T. a toy closet store. That is where you can go there and they will look it up for you. They also have photo spots that are really fun. They have Elliot's closet there, and you can take a family picture, or you can have the kids take a picture with E.T. They also have the bike that you can, all my kids wanted to ride the bike and take a picture, and they turned out really cute. There's also other photo spots around the park, so it's a really good thing. Also the dark room, that was definitely something, like if you get a Photo Pass package, you want to visit the dark room because there's a lot of fun different backgrounds that they do, and they also have added a few more recently. Now the last thing we'll have to talk about is 5 days too many days at Universal. I would say no, especially if you have kids, because it takes a lot longer to get around when you have children. They have to use the bathroom more often. That takes up time. Child swap takes up more time. I actually thought we were going to be able to get just about everything done in the 5 days, but we didn't. And so even though we were there for quite a number of days, we still had shows that we didn't see. There were rides we didn't go on. We missed all the water rides. The kids didn't really want to get wet, so we didn't go on any of those. So 5 days versus 2 days is nice because you don't have to feel rushed. Our 5th day, we didn't get as much done because everyone was so tired, which if we hadn't gone to Legoland the first day, they probably wouldn't have been quite as tired. But so that was like 6 days of full just going out to the parks every day. So everyone was tired. We didn't get as much done the last day. Now, if you don't care about visiting the Wizarding World, then 5 days probably might be a little too much for you. But with my kids, they really loved doing the wand spots, doing the wand magic, and they had so much fun with that. But if you do want to experience all the areas at Universal, then I think a 4-day ticket might be about right. If you don't have kids, then you might not need that many days. The kids had so much fun, and we can't wait to go back. I miss it already. Let me know in the comments what you think the perfect amount of days is to go to Universal. For me, I think 4 days is definitely a good balance if you want to do the Wizarding World. But let me know, what do you think is the perfect amount of days to go to Universal? Is it 2 days, 3 days, 5 days? Well, have a great day. Please like and subscribe for more content.